Great news! Clash Royale very recently got a mid-season update, and if you go ahead and check the App Store now, a new champion and card evolution arrive on November 6th. Now that is not far away at all. I mean, I don't remember the last time Clash Royale got a new card. It was like, what, March 2019? It was before COVID, right? A new champion and evolution though. That's crazy. Now nothing has officially been confirmed about this new card and new evolution. So, my fella and I, great guy, absolutely fantastic guy, I'll put his link on screen, decided to take it into our own hands and design some ideas for these brand new cards. So I'm going to showcase 3 things for you today. We both did an evolution and I made my very own champion for Clash Royale. Now let's start out with the evolutions. I feel as though the champion is the more exciting thing. Now I'm not sure if you've been as perceptive as I have, alright? Every evolution so far, all 8 of them, have been common rarity cards, okay? Now I'm not sure if that's an intended thing or if that's just luck of the draw 8 times you get 8 common cards, right? But to stick on theme, we both decided to do a common card. I guess I'll show you mine first. A lot of people, when they think of a new evolution, they go straight to the troops, right? They forget about the evolution mortar. There are a few other common buildings, of course, like the Tesla, or in this case, the cannon. Now, I will admit, this isn't really an original idea from me. Of course, if you've ever played Clash of Clans, you will recognize this from that sort of, okay? I did change the design around to keep it on theme with the evolution cards. They seem to be mostly purple with hints of gold. I don't know, I quite like this design. I could definitely see it being a thing in game. I'm not sure what else they would decide to do with the cannon. Now in Clash of Clans, this would fire, I believe, 4 times instead of the normal one. So it would be like, bat, bat, bat was normal cannon. This one was bat, 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 you know, bat, 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 and then it would pause. So the overall damage was higher, but against single targets, it was worse. This would mean cannon would be much more viable against the stuff which is usually used against, which is tanks. Be it small tanks like Ice Golem Hog, or larger tanks like Golem Electro Giant, right? It would make it more viable in that sense, so I think this evolution would actually be pretty good. Maybe need to be toned down a little, that's how good it is, but it would also have its weaknesses against the hordes. I thought that was a pretty fun idea. Not an overly creative one, I will admit that, but if you want creative, let's move to the second evolution right here, created by my fella. Now, I think we both took inspiration from the evolution mortar, right? It's probably the most interesting one. I took inspiration from it by making another building. He took inspiration from it by the other element of that card, which is the goblins. Now, the evolution mortar shoots like a normal mortar, but spawns a goblin at the end of it. So, let me introduce to you the evolution giant Snowball. Now, unlike me, where I just took something that already existed and just changed the colors of it, he hand drew this himself, so it's far, far more impressive. Giant Snowball, presumably standard damage and size, but they could probably alter it on the evolutions. Now, when the giant Snowball hits what you're aiming for it to hit, most probably the tower, out comes an Ice Golem very similar to the mortar. So I think the idea behind that evolution is to give it an element of utility which it doesn't have. Like, you wouldn't use that as a mobile miner, let's say, but now you would. I would presume that the elixir cost for this evolution would increase. Probably the same for the cannon too. I'd probably imagine the cannon to be 4 instead of 3, this to be 3 instead of 2. But obviously the stats are subject to change. I don't know the damage and such, but if you have any ideas for that, do be sure to write it in the comments down below. Now, let's move on to the champion. This is the most exciting part about it. We haven't had a champion in such a long time. We haven't had a new card in such a long time. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the last new card was a champion, and it was the Mighty Miner, which was nearly a year ago, I think, right? I once again have been unoriginal, not very creative. I believe it's called the Apprentice Warden in Clash of Clans, a relatively new troop to that game. Would be called the Warden in this game, and I made the art very similar to the other champions. So here is the Warden. Now, what this would do would have a ranged attack similar to how it has in Clash of Clans. So the idea behind what this would do, I imagine it would play like a Mother Witch. That sounds obscure, but allow me to elaborate, okay? This would not be a card used by itself. It would be a supportive card that you would place behind a push. Probably something like Mega Knight, right? It would be a ranged attacker with a staff, probably firing similarly to how it does in Clash of Clans. However, its niche in Clash of Clans was that I believe it would give overhealth or some sort of healing. I didn't want to do that, so the ability I chose for it was this sort of tornado-like ability, okay? You would click it, and imagine, if you will, the Golden Knight, where you click the Golden Knight's ability, and he will then start dashing until he hits something, okay? Once you click that ability, it will store this shot that his next fired shot at something would be a tornado. It's like the tornado spell, which would suck everything into it. Now, 2 elixir might be a bit pricey for that, so it could be bumped down to 1. I just put 2 because the initial idea of it to me seemed pretty powerful, but now that I think about it, probably wouldn't be that strong. It would be pretty niche, but I think it could be useful, and obviously depending on how powerful his staff was and his health was outside of his ability, I could see him being some sort of meta-defining card, similar to how the Monk was when he was introduced. Never mind, the Monk is newer than the Mighty Miner, Monk and Phoenix. I lied. Those were my ideas. I did also have some older ideas if you wanted to check those out. I think I also did it with Rob, my dear fella, Roert Studios. Do make sure you check him out. I'll leave the link of that in the bio. Maybe you have an idea for what the champion or evolutions could be. So, write it down in the comments, and I'll let you know if it's better than the double cannon, because I doubt that it is, okay? So, quite frankly, I think my idea is better than yours.